My life was pretty straightforward until Jake came along. I was a fitness trainer at a local gym, spending my days helping folks shape up, which kept me busy enough not to dwell on the lack of drama in my personal life. That all changed the day Jake walked into my gym. "Hey, I'm looking to switch up my routine. Got any killer moves to start with?" he asked, his tone light but his gaze intense. I gave him a once-over. He wasn't the usual newbie, unsure of which machine to try first. No, he looked like he knew his way around a gym but was here for something more. "Sure," I replied, leading him to a set of weights. "Let's see what you've got." That first session turned into a week, then a month, and our casual chats grew longer and more personal. Jake owned a small family restaurant, famous for its authentic Italian dishes. "It's all about the sauce," he'd say, "and nobody makes it like my mom." He talked about his mother with a mix of admiration and frustration, a combo that hinted at deep family ties. One afternoon, as we wrapped up a particularly intense workout, he caught me off guard. "Listen, Emily, I've been thinking. How about dinner at my place? You can meet my mom and try that sauce I keep bragging about." I hesitated, more out of surprise than disinterest. "Yeah, why not? I'm curious if it's as good as you claim." Dinner was cozy, the food incredible, and the company surprisingly comfortable. His mother, Anna, was all warm smiles and hearty laughs, though her eyes seemed to size me up with every glance. His younger sister, Sophia, dropped by too, her presence more prickly, her words sharp and quick. "So, Emily, Jake tells us you're quite the fitness guru," Sophia said, a smirk playing on her lips as she eyed the muscles I worked hard to build. "Ever deal with hopeless cases, or do you just make the fit fitter?" I chuckled, taking her jab in stride. "I believe everyone has potential. It's all about finding the right motivation." Jake was a constant during those early days, always showing up at the gym at the same time, always finding a reason to talk a little longer. "You know, I never believed in fate or any of that stuff," he confessed one evening as we closed up the gym together. "But meeting you? Maybe I was wrong." His words were a mix of rough charm and clumsy sincerity. It was refreshing, and despite the nagging voice in my head warning me to take it slow, I found myself falling for him. Hard and fast, like a rookie taking on too much weight without a spotter. One chilly evening, as we walked to our cars, he stopped and faced me, his expression serious. "Emily, I'm not good at this fancy talking, and I don't have a smooth line to throw your way. But I like you, a lot. What do you say we make this official?" It was abrupt and straightforward. No games, no dancing around the subject. That was Jake, direct and all in. I smiled, my heart hammering in my chest. "I say, yes. Let's see where this goes." And just like that, I was no longer just the fitness trainer at the local gym. I was Jake's girlfriend, and soon enough, his wife. Moving into Jake's mom's house right after we got married wasn't exactly what I had pictured for our happily ever after. Jake told me it was important to him because of his family ties, but living with his mom, Anna, and his sister, Sophia, was tough from the start. They didn't hide their displeasure about me joining the family, and things got tenser day by day. The house was always bustling, and somehow I ended up with more than my fair share of chores. After long hours at the gym, I'd come home to an endless list of tasks. The old washing machine was a nightmare. It broke down so often that I half joked it had something personal against me. But nobody else seemed to notice or care, especially not Anna or Sophia. I remember one evening after dinner, I was trying to fix that blasted machine again, and I could hear them in the kitchen. "She doesn't even know what she's doing," Sophia laughed, not bothering to lower her voice. "Watch, she'll flood the basement next." Their laughter echoed down the hallway, stinging more than I wanted to admit. I bit my tongue, focusing on the task at hand. It wasn't just the washing machine, it was everything. From cooking to cleaning, my efforts were just another source of entertainment for them. Cooking was the worst. Italian cuisine was sacred in this house, and my attempts were apparently blasphemous. I tried to follow Anna's recipes to the letter, but nothing seemed to work. One night, as I struggled with a supposedly simple pasta dish, Sophia hovered in the doorway. "Is that supposed to look like that?" she asked, a smirk playing on her lips. "It's nothing like Mom's." I gritted my teeth, stirring the sauce that just wouldn't thicken. "Well, I'm trying my best here." Sophia snorted. "Maybe your best isn't good enough. Did you ever think of that?" I wanted to snap back, to defend myself, but what was the point? It wouldn't change anything. Jake, whenever he was around, seemed to shrink a little more each time his sister or mother criticized me. He never stood up for me, his silence was as loud as their laughs. "Hey, Emily, just leave it," Jake would say quietly later, trying to avoid any confrontation. "It's not worth it." Dinner times were an ordeal. I'd set the dishes on the table, hoping for a peaceful meal, but it was like sitting down in a lion's den. "You know, in Italy, they'd probably ban you from the kitchen for this," Anna would joke as she tasted my food, the others chuckling along. "Yeah, maybe stick to what you know, gym stuff," Sophia would add, passing the salt like it was a peace offering I didn't deserve. I would nod, smile, and swallow the hurt, my frustration simmering like the sauce that never turned out right. Living with Jake's family made every day feel like a battle I wasn't prepared for. As my pregnancy progressed, the house chores, which already felt like they were all on me, became even more demanding. Instead of getting any help or understanding from Anna and Sophia, I felt their hostility grow stronger. One afternoon, I was trying to vacuum the living room, moving slower than usual, because of my growing belly. Anna walked in, watched me for a moment, and then let out a sigh that seemed to carry all her disapproval. "Emily, you missed a spot over there. And look at how slow you're moving. This house is going to fall apart at this rate," she said, pointing at a corner I hadn't gotten to yet. I straightened up, feeling the strain in my back. "I'm doing the best I can, Anna. It's a bit harder with the baby." She just sked and shook her head. "In my time, we didn't let a little thing like pregnancy slow us down. You need to toughen up." The lack of sympathy stung, and I bit my tongue to keep from snapping back. Sophia was no better. Later that day, as I was folding laundry, she came into the room and started flipping through the clothes I had just stacked neatly. "You do know these aren't folded right, don't you? They should be able to stand up on their own, like how Mom taught us. Here, let me show you." Again. She tossed the shirt she was holding back onto the pile, messing up what I had done. As she refolded the same shirt with sharp, practiced movements, I felt my frustration rise. "Sophia, I appreciate the lesson, but I've folded clothes before. I'm not an idiot." She just raised her eyebrows, a cold smile playing on her lips. Could have fooled me. But hey, if you're okay with being mediocre, who am I to argue? Her words felt like a slap, and for a moment, I just stood there, watching her make my efforts seem pointless. It was the same with cooking. Every meal I attempted was met with criticism or outright laughter, especially if I tried to make anything Italian. One evening, I decided to try again, making a simple pasta dish I thought I had mastered. I was stirring the pot when Sophia walked into the kitchen. "What's that supposed to be?" she asked, peering into the pot with a skeptical look. "It's spaghetti carbonara. I thought it might be nice for dinner," I said, hoping for a change in her usual harsh tone. She took a fork, twirled some pasta onto it, and tasted it with an exaggerated expression of disgust. "Nice? This is what you call nice? I wouldn't feed this to the dog. It's all wrong." I slammed the pot's lid down a little harder than necessary. "Well, it's what's for dinner, so if you don't like it, you're welcome to make something else." The tension in the house grew every day, and Jake's absence didn't help. He was always at the restaurant, always busy, and when he was home, he avoided any conflict. Whenever I tried to talk to him about how his sister and mother were treating me, he'd just sigh and say something like, "I know it's tough, Emily, but try to hang in there. They'll warm up to you eventually. Just give it time." After giving birth to my son, I hoped things might get better, but the reality was just the opposite. I had gained a good amount of weight during pregnancy, which became the new source of their mockery. "Look at how much she's eating," Anna would laugh as I tried to nourish myself for breastfeeding. "Are you feeding a child or a small army?" One day, while I was nursing my son in the living room, I heard Sophia mimic a cow's moo from the kitchen. The sound sliced through me, and tears pricked my eyes. It was clear they saw me as nothing more than a cow, a utility for my son. I reached my breaking point after the mocking, and the cold treatment at home became too much. I needed something for myself, a space where I wasn't just the criticized daughter-in-law or the underappreciated wife. That's when I decided to start my own YouTube channel and Instagram page. One morning, while Jake was at the restaurant and Sophia was out shopping, I set up my old camera in the corner of our cramped guest room, my new makeshift gym. "I'm doing this," I muttered to myself, adjusting the angle. "For me, not for them." I started recording simple workout videos, ones that could be done at home, especially appealing to moms like me who couldn't always hit the gym. It felt awkward at first, talking to a camera, pretending I was speaking to an audience who cared about what I had to say. But soon, it became my refuge. The first few videos were clumsy, my commentary stilted. "Hey everyone, it's Emily here, bringing you a quick 10-minute workout perfect for busy moms. Let's get started." My follower count started to grow, and with it, my confidence. I invested in a better camera, learned a bit about lighting and editing from online tutorials. My little project was turning into something real, something entirely mine. One afternoon, I was recording a new video, a low-impact cardio sequence, when Sophia barged into the room. "What the hell are you doing?" she snapped, her eyes darting from the camera to me. "You turning our home into your personal TV show now?" I paused the recording, my heart pounding not from the exercise, but from the confrontation. "Yes, I am actually. It's something important to me. I need something of my own, Sophia." She scoffed, looking around with disdain. "You think you're some kind of star? Please. Get over yourself, Emily." The words hurt, but I was getting better at handling her barbs. "Well, it's not like I have your approval for anything else around here. I might as well do one thing I enjoy." Sophia rolled her eyes and stormed out, but I didn't stop the camera for long. I resumed my session, my voice stronger than before. As my digital presence grew, so did the opportunities. Brands started reaching out to me, offering to send free products for me to use in my videos. Then came the offers for sponsored posts. The first time a brand offered me money to feature their product, I was in disbelief. "I can't believe they're paying me for this," I said to Jake over dinner one night, trying to share my excitement. "That's great, Emily," he said, though his tone was distracted, his mind on his restaurant troubles. "Just keep it quiet, okay? Mom and Sophia don't need to know about this." As I turned back to the dishes, a notification pinged on my phone. Another comment, another follower, another step away from the disdain and towards something beautifully ordinary, but all mine. "You're doing amazing, Emily. Thanks for sharing your journey," the comment read. My channel wasn't just a hobby anymore, it was a budding business, pulling in more cash than Jake's struggling restaurant. Soon, I was handing him $2,000 a month to cover the house bills, making it look like his contribution. Despite my success, Anna and Sophia still treated me like a freeloader. "She does nothing around here, just prances about making her silly videos," Anna would snipe when she thought I was out of earshot. Sophia was no better, echoing her mother's sentiments and adding her own barbs about how I should be doing more housework like a real woman. Then Jake's restaurant hit a rough patch. He came to me, looking more worn than I'd seen him in months. The restaurant needs a cash injection badly. Can you help out?" His eyes were pleading. I didn't hesitate, transferring $10,000 for what he called urgent developments. He was thankful, genuinely so, but it wasn't long before he was asking for more. "Just another $5,000 for the bills this month," he said softly, almost ashamed. I agreed, because I could afford it, and because he was still the father of my son, who he absolutely adored. But deep down, I felt the imbalance growing, not just in our finances, but in our relationship too. Life at Jake's family home was always strained, but it turned unbearable when Sophia got married and brought her husband, Mark, to live with us. The house was packed, and any semblance of privacy or peace I had carved out for myself and my son vanished overnight. Anna, never one to mince words, started calling me lazy and a parasite right to my face. "You do nothing around here," she'd snap as I tried to manage my online work while keeping an eye on my son. "Just taking up space." It didn't help that Sophia was now expecting her first child, and Anna made it clear they needed more room, implying that my son and I were in the way. "Soon, there'll be another baby in the house, and we can't have freeloaders taking up space," Anna declared one evening, her eyes darting pointedly in my direction. The atmosphere grew colder, and then, as if things couldn't get any worse, Jake announced he had to leave town for a few weeks to handle some urgent matters with his restaurant in another city. He packed up and left, kissing me and our son goodbye, oblivious to the storm he was leaving behind. I tried to keep things normal, taking my son to school and continuing with my videos in the park. But the day everything truly fell apart was like any other until it wasn't. After picking up my son from school, we walked back home, chatting about his day, only to find our belongings, suitcases, bags of clothes, and even my son's toys, piled up outside the front door. Confused and heartbroken, I rang the doorbell, only to be greeted by the cold faces of Anna and Sophia through the window. They opened the door just a crack, enough to speak but not enough to let us in. "You need to find somewhere else to stay," Anna said, her voice harsh and unwavering. "What are you talking about? What about Jake? What will I tell him?" I demanded, my voice rising in panic and anger. Sophia laughed, a cruel, cutting sound. "Tell him whatever you want. He's not here to care, is he?" I tried calling Jake, but my calls went unanswered, sinking me deeper into a mix of despair and fury. With no other options, I gathered our things and managed to get us a room at a nearby hotel. Sitting there, in that impersonal room with my confused and upset son, I felt a shift inside me. This wasn't just a temporary retreat, it was a forced eviction from a life I could no longer tolerate. I had just finished unpacking our essentials when my phone pinged with a new message. It was from Sophia, which was odd because we hardly communicated directly, especially not since the fallout. Her message was shockingly cheerful. "Thought you might want to see what your beloved husband has been up to," accompanied by a link. Curiosity piqued and anxiety tightening in my chest, I clicked the link. It redirected me to a social media page filled with photos of Jake, photos that showed him not on some urgent business trip as he claimed, but enjoying cozy dinners and walks on the beach with another woman. The timestamp on the latest photo, just yesterday. I sat there, numb, the phone slipping slightly from my hand as the realization hit me. He wasn't just away on business, he was living a whole other life without us. Anger, sharp and bitter, bubbled up, but before I could drown in it, my son tugged at my sleeve. "Mommy, are you okay?" His small voice, filled with concern, pulled me back from the edge. I forced a smile, scooping him up into my arms. "Yeah, buddy, I'm okay. Just a little tired, that's all." I sat there, staring at the screen, a mix of anger and betrayal coursing through me. All this time, I had been the financial backbone for his failing restaurant and for his family, who had just thrown me and my son out like yesterday's garbage. And here he was, living a double life at my expense. Over the next week, my phone was incessantly buzzing with calls from Jake. When I finally answered, his voice was laced with feigned concern. "Emily, where are you guys? I heard about what happened. You should come back. We have bills to sort out, and the restaurant needs more funding." His words made my blood boil, but I kept my tone neutral. "Sure, Jake. We can discuss it. I'll come by tomorrow." "Great, I really think it's best to handle these things in person," he replied, sounding relieved. Hanging up, I felt a cold determination settle over me. He had no idea that I knew about his affair, or that I had no intention of playing the forgiving wife who footed his bills. Tomorrow's meeting would be a turning point, and I was ready for it. Dropping my son off at school that morning felt like the calm before the storm. As I drove to my mother-in-law Anna's house, where I knew Jake, Anna, and my pregnant sister-in-law, Sophia, would be waiting, my stomach churned with nerves and resolve. When I arrived, Jake was obviously relieved and maybe even a bit happy to see me, unlike Anna and Sophia, whose faces were marked with discontent. Without wasting any time, I pulled out the divorce papers from my bag and handed them to Jake. His shock was palpable, his eyes widening as he scanned the documents. Anna and Sophia couldn't contain their initial reactions and began to smile, thinking this was their victory. That smile quickly faded when I addressed them. Don't be too quick to celebrate. You've been living off my efforts all this time. Jake's face fell as he admitted to them. The restaurant isn't doing well. It hasn't been for a long time. The revelation sparked immediate outrage from Anna and Sophia. They turned on him, their earlier glee replaced with anger as they scolded him for keeping them in the dark and for losing what they considered their financial safety net, me. Sophia, ever the brazen one, sneered at me. Well, since Jake makes less than you, he'll just have to file for alimony. How's that for justice? Jake perked up at this, nodding eagerly, as if it were some sort of twisted victory. I almost laughed at the absurdity. That's where you're wrong, Sophia. And Jake, I continued, turning to face him squarely. You won't see a cent for alimony. I know about the affair. The color drained from his face. How did you? Your sister sent me everything. Pictures, dates, places, I said, pointing to Sophia, whose face turned a shade paler. Thanks to her, I have all the evidence I need. What followed was a furious back and forth among them, a mess of accusations and denials. I let them drown in their quarrel for a moment before speaking up again. I'm also taking back everything I paid for. Every appliance, every piece of furniture. Their arguing ceased as the reality of the situation hit them. I had already arranged for movers, and as they began hauling away the refrigerator, the washing machine, the flat-screen TV, and even the fancy blender I had bought last Christmas, Anna and Sophia watched, their faces streaked with tears and disbelief. You can't do this. We need those things. Anna cried out, her voice breaking. I did do this, and I need them too, I replied, my voice steady but not unkind. The movers continued their work, clearing out nearly half of what filled their home. As I watched them take away the last of the items, a weight lifted off my shoulders. I was no longer tied to this house, these people, or their deceit. I turned back to see Jake, who now looked small and defeated, his dreams of easy money evaporating. Take care of your sister and your mother, Jake. That's your job now, I said, not unkindly, before turning to leave. As I walked away, I knew that this was more than just a physical departure. It was my final step out of their manipulative grasp, a move towards reclaiming my life and securing a better future for my son and myself. After everything, the divorce was more of a relief than a burden. I filed for compensation due to Jake's infidelity and secured alimony for our son. My lawyer handled everything, making the process as smooth as possible under the circumstances. Life changed dramatically for Jake's family too. His restaurant, unable to stay afloat without my financial support, finally went bankrupt. The family house was sold off to cover debts, a stark testament to their unsustainable lifestyle. Meanwhile, Anna and Sophia, left scrambling, tried reaching out to me, their messages a mix of apologies and pleas for help. But after everything, I couldn't let myself be pulled back into their chaos. I blocked their numbers without a second thought. Sophia's husband left her, and now the whole lot of them, Jake, his mom, his sister, and her child, live crammed into a small rented apartment. It's a tough situation, but one they brought upon themselves. In contrast, life for me and Alex is looking up. We've settled into a nice rhythm in our own rented apartment, a cozy place that feels more like home every day. My YouTube channel and Instagram page have really taken off, resonating with women, especially new moms who are trying to find their way back to fitness. Seeing the positive impact of my work has inspired a new idea, launching online fitness courses specifically tailored for postpartum women. I'm excited about the possibilities and the chance to help others who have been in my shoes. There was so much to do, but for the first time in a long while, the future seemed bright and brimming with potential. Here in our little sanctuary, with my son's laughter echoing off the walls, I felt a profound sense of peace. We had made it through the storm, and now, it was our time to shine.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children. With zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job. Having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike, what have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.